Sister came in with us and was waking up my baby at 4 a.m. When I established a curfew, she called Mia via CH and stole my pricey diaper bag for her beach trip. I am a 25-year-old woman living in a 3-bedroom apartment with my 27-year-old fiancé. We have a 6-month-old boy. My younger sister Mia, fictitious name, 20F, has recently begun attending a university that is closer to where I live than either of my parents' homes. Because she has an early morning class, my fiancé and I let her move into our extra bedroom. She has been living with us since January. I've had Mia follow a set of rules since she moved in, largely to ensure that everyone lives in peace. One of the most crucial criteria is to arrive after my son's bedtime, which is typically between 19 and 20 hours. Mia is free to arrive home as late as she wants, as long as she does not make too much noise. The apartment door has an electronic keypad lock, and the one we use has a regular lock underneath it. Everyone has a copy of the key, but we all prefer to enter the password. However, the keypad is really noisy, and my son's nursery is not far from the entrance. Every time I use the keyboard after putting the baby to sleep, he wakes up. Naturally, the rule about arriving home late includes not using the keypad. Everyone, including Mia, has been aware of this since day one. Initially, we had no problems. However, now that Mia has adjusted to college life, she has been venturing out at night more frequently. She has been arriving home after midnight on Friday and Saturday nights for the past month. She constantly forgets the "don't make too much noise" rule and has used the keyboard on numerous times. My son always wakes up sobbing. Damn, time. I'd sit her down and remind her of the rule whenever this happened, but she kept doing it. My fiancé and I were tired of putting our kid back to sleep as a result, so I changed the password and informed Mia that she could no longer use the keypad. She agreed and promised to make less noise. Mia spent Friday night with her buddies. She came home inebriated at 4 a.m. and forgot I had changed the password. She not only used the keypad, but she also repeatedly entered the wrong password, triggering an alert. I was infuriated. My infant woke up sobbing, and I received complaints from my neighbors. The next morning, I informed Mia that I was instituting a curfew, and that while she was living with me, she needed to be home by 20 a.m. She will not be permitted to go out at night for the remainder of the semester. Mia fought back, saying I had no right to ground her, and that I never used that word or dictated what she did with her leisure time, but I stood firm. I promised her she would be free to do whatever she wanted once she had her own place and raised her own family. She must obey my instructions while living with me. She told our parents about it. Our mother and stepfather are on my side while our father is on Mia's. He claims I'm not her mother and have no right to treat her like a child. He also thinks it's unfair to punish her for a drunken mistake. AITA? OP clarifies in the comments that she is currently living here for free. The agreement is for her to begin paying a tiny percentage of the rent once she gets a job. Commenter, what if she never obtains a job or it takes months? What if she finds a job but does not notify you because she likes to freeload? If the latter happens, I'll find out. She tells our mother everything, just as my mother would tell me. I know my relatives. I do not need her to pay me right now. My father still provides her money for personal things, so I don't overspend on her. Commenter, I'm having difficulties understanding how unlocking numerous locks and jangling keys into a door is quieter than a keypad, omitting the alarm, and won't wake the infant up. Oh, there's only one lock. It isn't completely silent, but it's quiet enough not to wake the baby. When you type something into the keypad, it produces a pretty loud noise, as does when the door opens. How loud is it? Oop. Very. It creates noises when you type something in, and another when the door is unlocked. And she isn't just silently entering in the password, she is also being noisy, slamming the door, knocking things over, and so on. Commenter, I suppose certain electronic locks have a silent function. At least my alarm system's keypad does. However, I am not so sure. I do not have electronic door locks, which is why I am asking the topic in the first place. Unfortunately, the one we use lacks a silent function. Update 1 May 10, 2024. It's difficult to define my relationship with my younger sister in depth, but I will say that, while I adore her, Mia has always been a very callous individual. I have numerous instances. She almost missed our cousin's wedding last year because she didn't want to go to the event, which was 2 blocks from our mother's house. When we were younger, we shared a bathroom, and she insisted on using the top drawers since she didn't want to crouch down, but she was fine with me doing so. She slept through my college graduation and never apologized for it. I'm bringing this up now because when I questioned Mia why she kept forgetting to use her key, she said that rummaging through her bag took too long and that the keypad was quicker. In her mind, upsetting others is preferable to marginally inconveniencing herself. Mia tried several methods to persuade me to reconsider the curfew once I had instituted it. She'd talk about not being able to cancel her Party X tickets, or about how much fun her friends had at Party Y. She'd show me her growing LinkedIn profile and assure me she'd learned her lesson and would be more responsible. At first, I didn't want to kick her out, as many of you urged, but I have limitations. A few days ago, I overheard her moaning to her pals on the phone about her bitch of a sister who wouldn't let her do anything. Later that day, I asked her which of our parents she intended to move in with. Cue more fighting. I was able to explain to her that I was under no responsibility to continue lodging her for free if she could not respect my family. Mia could either move back home with our parents or stay with me for the minimal cost of respecting my infant kid and not moaning about it. We had a very productive talk afterward. My sister and I were able to express ourselves fully. Mia apologized for everything. She realized she had been selfish and resolved to reform and develop. I firmly think that individuals can change, which is why I'm not kicking her out right now. But I made it abundantly apparent that Mia is on thin ice. And the next time she does something like this, she will never see the inside of my home again. As previously anticipated, the curfew will remain in effect until the end of the semester. My father also agreed to pay for Mia to return to therapy. It helped her a lot when she was younger, so I'm optimistic about the future of this living arrangement. I'd also like to thank individuals who recommended a white noise machine. My baby is not a light sleeper, the keypad is just too loud and wakes him up, but my fiancé and I are still considering acquiring one. Anything that improves our baby's sleep is welcome. Thanks, Reddit. Update 2 October 4th, 2024. Okay, you've called it. My fiancé and I kicked Mia out of my apartment about a month ago. This had very little to do with the keypad situation. After my last post, things were quite calm for a time. Then June arrived, and Mia resolved to return to her old ways. At first, it seemed like a typical entitlement. She began stealing my belongings without consent, crying anytime my kid cried, and fussing about having to do everything, including her own laundry. All of this was more bothersome than unbearable, so I'd just take my belongings back and let her clothing stink. Then, in early September, Mia had a holiday beach excursion with her buddies. The day after she departed, I discovered my diaper bag and one of my son's blankets were missing. Both were expensive gifts from my best friend for my baby shower. I searched every room in the apartment and discovered everything that had been in the diaper bag strewn on Mia's bed. She'd emptied the bag to utilize it as extra luggage. She accidentally snatched the blanket, which was in a separate pocket. When I got them back, they were dusty and sandy. I contacted Mia as soon as I discovered the stuff. Her justification for taking the diaper bag was that she didn't want to empty her school bag, and her computer wouldn't fit anyplace else. She also called me dramatic when I told her to apologize. That was when I kicked her out. I told her that once she returned, she would have 1 week to gather her belongings and return to either of our parents' homes. My sister spent the remainder of her vacation attempting to persuade me otherwise. She also attempted to persuade my parents to her side. My mother told her that she had brought it on herself. My father tried to persuade me to be pleasant, but I told him I already was. Mia tried to start a fight about it when she returned from her trip, but I refused to budge. She moved out formally a couple of weeks ago. My mother is making her save money so she can repay me for the nearly 8 months of rent she owes me. To be honest, I'm writing primarily to vent. Being the older sister is exhausting. The home is constantly on fire, but you can never be the one panicking out. You're like a second mother, but not a real mom, so you're younger. Sibling has no reason to respect you. At least it was my experience growing up. My mother is wonderful, but she accepts that I was essentially Mia's third parent. My father was a nice father but a mediocre parent, and he refuses to acknowledge this. He also refuses to admit that following the divorce, I was more responsible for Mia than he was. I adore my sister, but she's always regarded me as an afterthought. For a few years, she called me nearly exclusively when she needed a ride. I'd spend a ton of money on presents, and she'd give me a $2 gift 2 months after my actual birthday, which happened 3 times in a row, including this year. The list goes on. It constantly seemed like I was the last thing on her mind. I won't say I was perfect, but I was always there for her. I will always adore my sister, and I feel she also loves me. But I also recognize that she is too self-centered to realize how terribly she treats me. I need to concentrate on my son, and I can't deal with Mia's immaturity right now. Do I regret allowing her to move in with me? No. Do I regret not kicking her out in May? Also, no. To be honest, I believe I needed it. Knowing I tried has always helped me go asleep at night. Plus, living with Mia wasn't entirely horrible. At first, it was enjoyable to accompany her on the Drake-Kendrick Lamar feud. My sister and I are on speaking terms. She was upset at first, but she got over it when she realized that no one was really on her side. She's back to traveling between our parents' homes every week. I don't miss that lifestyle. Mia despises it since it takes her longer to go to her lessons each morning. She has apologized, but I will not allow her move back in with me. My son is turning 1 in a few weeks. Mia is invited to his birthday celebration, but I don't expect her to show up. My fiancé and I are getting married in a little less than a year, and she is also invited. I hope my sister can learn to be more compassionate and that our relationship will improve someday. But I'm tired of being the only one who works hard. This will be my last post. Thanks, Reddit. Comments where OP has responded, on not regretting allowing Cease to stay at initially. Oop, I don't regret nothing. I had to recognize that I couldn't keep giving my sister these chances. And I don't believe I could have accomplished it without knowing I had tried. Simply be aware of her emotions leading up to your wedding. She could turn up pleased and eager for you, sulking, or be persuaded by her pals or TikTok to show up just to cause trouble. Shredded improper dress, bridal gown, unique hairstyle, who knows? Unfortunately, security exists for such individuals. Oop, nah, these things require work. At worst, she'll sulk for the entire wedding. I know no one would support her if she did something more drastic. Comment on her. Dad sounds like he's still enabling the sister yet. My father's posture here has little to do with trying to enable Mia. He has always expected me to go out of my way to help people. That behavior has improved recently, but there are still signs of it here and there. Next story: boyfriend grew infatuated with rock climbing, quit his job, and now works at a sandwich restaurant. When I became pregnant, hubby chose a competition over my scan. My partner is crazy with climbing and bouldering. He organizes nearly his entire life around it. He is quite good at it and has even been semi-sponsored. He receives discounted gear through sponsorship rather than money. We met while climbing around 4 years ago, when we were both already in relationships, and became friends. While I've known him, he's become increasingly committed to the lifestyle. He sold his automobile to pay for a climbing vacation. He was halfway through his engineering degree when he stopped college due to scheduling conflicts with contests. His real-life buddies have all moved on in different ways. As a result, the majority of his buddies share his passion for climbing. He still had other hobbies and a steady income till we moved. I worked for the government and was given a promotion if I moved to the West. My partner was happy and very supportive. We chose to take the chance, accept the position, and move in together. The new position necessitated significant modifications. I'm on call most weekends, so my days of extremely competitive climbing are limited. I'm getting my hair tested, so no more fun with drugs. Some days I have to travel to various job sites, so I won't be home until after midnight. Overall, the job has been excellent. It's laid back and enjoyable, and the results are incredible. I'm so glad I took the plunge. My lover, on the other hand, has taken a completely other approach. Back home, he worked a 40-hour week with benefits. Out here, one of his climbing mates got him a job at a sandwich restaurant working the lunch shift. He emphasized that it would be temporary. While he looked for something better 6 months later, he's still there, with no plans to leave. Why? Because it fits perfectly with his climbing schedule, and all of his co-workers climb. In his defense, he lives a completely bare-bones lifestyle. No car, no insurance, and few goods. He can make do with very little, which is financially accountable for his income, but he has no savings. Any additional money goes towards climbing equipment, food and travel expenses such as gas, flights and bus tickets to competitions. Don't get me wrong, I'm still a competitive climber who excels at it, but all I want is to have fun and meet new people. My guy used to be quite nonchalant about it as well. But because the bar is so much higher out here, he's dedicated himself to become better. The other ascending brothers enjoy it, and they all feed off one another. And let me tell you something, the majority of those guys are terrible. They are practically all unmarried, and one wears a wedding band with climbing engraved on it, broke and shameless. Like musicians, but not as cool. Last time I was there, one of the guys told me I should purchase the drinks because I made a lot of money. When he isn't climbing with the guys, he watches the same climbing videos online and reads climbing forums, researching new gear or obsessively checking climbing scores. I feel like all we speak about or do now is climbing, and I'm getting really frustrated. I've discussed making arrangements for other activities, but he won't commit since he's waiting to hear about climbing. If you don't have a car, you're stuck with the guy driving away. I even tried to schedule a vacation to New York City for his birthday, but he claims he won't be able to go until he finds out if he has enough points to compete in a world-class climbing competition in August. And then, despite being on birth control, I became pregnant. He's helpful in little ways, but is hesitant to cancel a climbing trip to go to the prenatal scan. When we discuss choices, he says he doesn't believe we're in the proper place. I've never considered having children, but his response makes me feel a little sad. He thinks I'd be a fantastic mother, and he wants to have children someday, just not right now. After consulting with my parents and friends, I make the decision to terminate. He arrives for the procedure, and the doctor informs us that I couldn't have kept it anyway. My lover looks genuinely relieved. Now his tone indicates that we had no choice. We couldn't have gotten it anyway. He's moved on, but I'm still quite sad about it. Reddit, I'd like to chat to him about all of these feelings. We are truly growing apart. I still find him beautiful, but I don't want to have sex with him anymore. I'm scared I'll get pregnant again, and because nothing in his situation has changed, he'll continue to pick climbing. He's turned into the individuals we used to make fun of. People that live in a van or a tent at popular climbing areas and eat, sleep, and breathe climbing. On the one hand, I'm thrilled he's content out here, but on the other, I found it tougher to relate to him. It appears that something we used to share in common has become rather controversial. My parents are outraged because he told them before we left that he was committed to building a future together, and they don't understand why he is backsliding. I don't either. I told him last month that I didn't want to hurt his feelings, but I thought his lifestyle was somewhat disappointing. He promised to look for other work, but he hasn't even attempted. In the climbing mansion, there is an old house near us that houses 6 climbing dudes. A room is opening up. I am definitely considering asking him to move out and live with his friends. However, the other night he informed me he was quite happy with us and wanted to talk about the future. I'm so perplexed. I adore and want to support him, but his lack of motivation is a tremendous turnoff. How can he possibly discuss the future when his sole goals revolve around this insane sport that could simply end if he injures himself? How do I approach him about this without going below the belt? I'd like to do it soon, because he asked one of my close friends about ring shopping. Good Lord, I do not want to get engaged right now. Help. Update: I didn't figure people would care about an update, but I keep receiving private messages wondering what happened. I have received more messages than responses to my post. Apparently many of us have dated climbers. To wrap up the story, here's what happened after we posted. Work had slowed somewhat, and while I was still putting in occasional overtime, I wasn't going to work sites very frequently. We were spending more time together, and I felt that one night in particular was an appropriate moment to bring up the matter. The conversation went well. I told him I was frustrated because he constantly talking about seeking a new career but never follows through. I gave him 2 separate work flyers that I felt would be totally up his alley. One was for climbing cellular reception towers. Come on. Even I find it intriguing, while the other was for an engineering assistant. He basically stated that he understands there is no future at his current job, but it pays enough to get by and he is having fun. I told him I understood, but I was thinking about whether we should stop living together. This became a dispute about duties, money, and, most importantly, what we wanted out of the future. He restated his desire for children and marriage, as well as his deep love for me, but he does not want to do so right now. I asked him what would happen if I were pregnant again, and he replied it was quite improbable. When I told him I thought he had made climbing his first goal, he scoffed and said I was exaggerating. I opened the closet door and brought out all of the camping stuff he had purchased before we came out here, all of which still had tags attached. Unless I already used it. He hasn't attended such trips because he's been climbing. This is hundreds of dollars of unused equipment over an 8-month period. I pointed to his filthy mountain bike. He said he doesn't own an automobile. What about the Frisbee golf bag in our storage container? He has not had time. At this time, I simply started bawling. We used to enjoy and participate in all of these activities together. I feel like an idiot. I tell him that I understand where he is in his life and want him to be happy, but I'm going to start looking for another apartment. We have a little more than a month left on our lease, so we can part ways peacefully. He appears absolutely upset. All he responds is, "If that's what you want, I found an apartment and we'll move out in a week." Things have been cordial enough. We share a studio, and he has the bed, while I sleep in the closet on a camping cot. Hey, it finally saw some use. He claims he's moving into the climbing house temporarily. My folks are concerned that I am coming apart, yet I am fine. Sad, but fine. I still care about him, but I've realized that practically all of the stress in my life was caused by the energy I was putting into our relationship. Perhaps it will sink in when we ultimately parted ways. So, there you have it.